Chapter 72 to 74. What do I need to do? Vegeta followed Dabura inside the compound and met the small Babidi. Vegeta thought he sounded familiar, but disregarded it when it didn't come to mind. Dabura then explained to Vegeta that all he needed to do was to provide a chunk of his ki to the white container on the counter. In exchange, Babidi would grant Vegeta a mark of power, they called it, increasing his power whenever he activated it. Of course, that was a ruse, as Babidi wanted to put the mark to control Vegeta after. He questioned the shady business dealers as to why they would need a large amount of ki from him. They responded that they were only researchers that wanted to conduct and study normal ki. When he heard the words normal ki, his curiosity piqued. People normally called normal ki just ki, as most mortals in the universe used this type of ki. There were rare other types of ki out there that other races used. One such example was the races in Yardrat. They used different types of ki all the same, and were able to teach Goku the techniques in the same fashion as they do. Vegeta decided to ask them where they hailed from after the exchange, as if he asked before. It might bring in some unwarranted hostility. After all, everyone was privy to their own secrets. Vegeta was about to inject a medium-sized piece of ki into the container until his hand was just a few inches away. He had some hesitation, and some questions ran through his mind. Would this destroy his pride in battle? To gain power from an outside source? No, Vegeta threw away his pride when he accepted. All that matters now is defeating Goku no matter what. What if they use his ki for something harmful? Dabura walked up behind Vegeta, seeing he didn't forfeit his ki yet, and spoke behind his ear. Employing some special strategies from his homeland, it didn't feel like Dabura was talking, but it was like in Vegeta's head. Put in your ki. What are you afraid of? This amount of ki and be found anywhere. Put it in, do it. Playing devil's advocate was his specialty, and it succeeded. It was the truth. Vegeta wasn't putting a large amount of ki in the container. Such amounts could be easily found in medium-sized and higher-level planets. What Vegeta didn't know, and quite frankly blind to, was that his ki as a Super Saiyan was purer than normal ki. Such purity would do much better in Awakening Bu. Vegeta was successfully turned, and he put the ki in the container. After he did so, Babidi and Dabura were grinning at Vegeta's stupidity. Who knew unleashing a universe-threatening creature was this easy? Come on, Shin, do me a solid, my man. No can do, Goku. I stretched the rules when I allowed your children to reside and train here. I cannot do the same to that menace. In fact, I will kill him here and now to save our universe in the future. Supreme Kai walked towards Broly with his desire firmly placed out in the open. They were back in the Supreme Lands as Gargo was thoroughly destroyed due to the fight. Chilai heard what Shin said and stood between them to protect Broly. She was extremely nervous, especially finding out that who she was facing was the Supreme Kai, highest lord in the land. Move aside, Shin said in an aggressive and calm tone that didn't fit his character at all. He needed to fulfill his duty as the god of creation and protect his creations. No, it wasn't Chilai who spoke, but Goku who went to stand beside her. Seeing them two there, Raditz also joined them in protecting Broly. Son Goku, why do you protect him? He will destroy our universe, if not after he wakes up then, when he fully realizes his power. Such an irrational choice to think he can change. Broly is not like that. He is normally calm and gentle with everything. Please, I have been with him for a long time. Believe me, Chilai had to say her piece, and it was obvious from the facial expression of Kaioshin that he did not believe her. That is why I want you to train him, Shin, I know you can. Train him to have a calm mind, so he won't go berserk once again. With Chilai, as long as she is with him, he should be able to restrain himself better. Until he is able to control his power. Arg, you are the most infuriating person I have met to date, Son Goku. Only gods can topple you. I will think about it for now, leave the sacred land. I need time to think. Goku smiled at Shin, knowing that he would agree. That is just who he is. He picked up Broly and with Chilai and Raditz, left towards Raditz's spaceship. They were able to bring it with them in their teleportation. As for Chilai's, it got destroyed in the chaos. Yo, Raditz, are you coming back to Earth? The kids really miss you. No, I won't. I have learned a lot from my travels, and I still want to keep going and explore the universe. Maybe in a couple of years more, I will come back. Goku and Raditz caught up in each other's affairs for a little bit, while Chilai was watching over Broly. It was time to say goodbye. They bade each other luck on their journey, and Raditz departed from the planet on his spaceship. All right, let's go to Earth. You will love it there. There shouldn't be anyone there like Paragus who are stupid. Great. Splendid. Terrific. Babidi picked up the container and lovingly hugged. He was like a little child unable to wait and play with his new toy. He turned around to go and summon Bu, and have his revenge on those who opposed him before Vegeta stopped him. Don't you forget about giving me my power increase, or you won't walk another step with my ki. Sweat drooped from Babidi's wrinkly back in trepidation. He knew he was around as powerful as Dabura, so follow his order and do what he wants. Just you wait for Scion. Your greed for power will be your downfall. Yes, I nearly forgot. Here, sit on his stool. He pulled out a stubby stool from out of nowhere and sat on a larger one. With Vegeta on the stool and Babidi on the chair, he was able to draw on the forehead of Vegeta more easily. Of course, there was another more forceful way to do it, but why use the mana and go through the trouble? There is very rarely someone who would willingly become a slave of his. Drawing his signature M on top of Vegeta's forehead, he did some magic chant to go after it. The symbol glowed for a brief second before merging in with Vegeta's enormous forehead. Once the symbol stopped glowing, a rush of negative ki rush to invade Vegeta as quickly as they could. Flooding his body and integrating with his existing ki, his ki reserves exploded in quality and quantity. Busting open the door down with a fierce kick, he went outside to explore his new powers and decided whether or not it is enough. Mazer Babidi, are you not going to control him? Let him have a false sense of freedom. It will make his servitude much more bitter for him and sweeter FORME. For not, we have a much bigger and better fish to fry. Rushing to the cocoon that Bu resided in, and put the spout of the container inside a little hole in the egg. Pouring Vegeta rich ki in there, the egg started to tremble and glow in response. They emptied their reserves just as the cocoon stopped moving. Like time was frozen and the cocoon adhered to it. A couple of more seconds go by and Babidi feels a sense of unease. Maybe we need more? Just as he said that, the cocoon cracked once again, straight down the middle, splitting the two parts. Bang! A giant pink blob lurched out of the cocoon and stopped right in front of Babidi. He waited until he stopped wiping the cocoon remains that exploded on him. Babidi opened his eyes and felt his heart stop for a second. Boo! It Bu! Hello Bu, I am Babidi, the son of Babidi and your master. Master? Yes, your master. Bu frowned at the word, knowing what it implied. Even with his simple mind, he would want it for himself and not for someone else to contract. Me have no master. He then proceeded to stick his tongue out in defiance. You think I wouldn't be able to control you? I know the sealing technique that got you into that ball. Maybe that ball was more comfortable for you than I thought. Bu put up his arms in defeat at the mere mention of those words. Those thousands of years were painfully boring to him. Dabura looked at Bu with some caution, not satisfied with the way he was controlled. If this really was the Bu of Legends, he could easily kill them, and he wouldn't be able to respond. Going outside to complete their conquest of the universe and destruction to those blasted Kais, they saw Vegeta testing out his power. He was just doing simple exercises of his muscles and ki. He noticed the obvious power increase, but wasn't satisfied with such a small increase. He wouldn't be able to catch up to Goku with this. Whatever, I have no more business here. He flew up a few feet before a voice resounded within his mind. Vegeta, come to me. Babidi used his mind control to control Vegeta to come to him. When he didn't see Vegeta automatically come to him, he tried to exert his control once again. Come. Vegeta turned around, making Babidi feel more reassured with his mind control until he saw the disdain on Vegeta's face. It was obvious that the mind control didn't work, and his will was much too powerful than Babidi expected. Should have expected something like this. Vegeta then launched a big bang attack straight towards Babidi. Before the attack could connect, Dabura stepped before Babidi and swatted the attack away. Vegeta, you dare attack our master after he gave you the power you seek? Master? I am the Prince of Science. I have no master. The slight mention of being under someone made Vegeta's pride ruffled. No master. Bu was observing Vegeta's behavior and resistance. If he had lesser power than himself and refuses to concede, why should he? It seems to me need to be taught some manners. Dabura. Babidi restricted the power that Vegeta received from the mark and had Dabura go after Vegeta. He gleefully accepted, unable to handle the blasphemy that he tried to do by killing his master. Vegeta met Dabura mid-air and engaged in combat with the Demon King. While in his true Super Saiyan state, Dabura was at a disadvantage even with his Majin power increase. One could see he was beaten mercilessly by the Saiyan. Babidi wore a grim expression, seeing his faithful minion fail to accomplish his mission. His opinion of him fell off greatly. Turning around to Bu, he then commanded the pink blog to finish the fight quickly. But when he turned around, Bu's enormous face was straight in front of his, surprising him a great deal. Bu, stop joking around and show them your power. When Bu didn't respond and proceeded to stare at the small gremlin, Babidi's short fuse blew out. Listen to me, you ingrate moron. Finish him off, or I will seal you in that ball permanently. The threat didn't seem to stick well with Bu, if one could expect from his frown. Suddenly, Bu smiled a smile of a devil. Me eat you. Wa dashed before Babidi could react. The little antenna-like appendage on his head aimed at the small alien and shot forward a pink ray. Babidi's face of horror was frozen like a still frame before the next instant, where he turned into a chocolate bar. Happy with his new treat, he licked it all over before stuffing the whole thing in his mouth. Chewing on the tasty candy, he could feel the energy within it merge with his body. Sensing a drastic change to his body, it automatically blew steam from the pores from his head. Steam flew everywhere surrounding his body. Dabura and even Vegeta sensed something wrong, because they were connected with Babidi through magic. The mark on Vegeta slowly disappeared until it faded out of existence. Meanwhile, the mark on Dabura sent him through mental and physical pain before also disappearing. Because the control of Dabura through his brain and power was higher than that of Vegeta, he was affected negatively when it was removed. Vegeta ignored the plight the demon was in, and instead turned his attention towards the steam that was encasing Bu. Although he saw the pink blob earlier, when confronted with the two assailants, he didn't really think much of the guy since his power level didn't seem to be that high. Now, however, he can see that Babidi's ki was gone and Bu's was going through a transformation of sorts. Looking intently, the steam eventually parted, giving something that made Vegeta scratch his head. Condensing into a smaller version of himself, one that was the size of Babidi, he was wearing an orange cape and blue skirt similar to his master before. His physique looked similar to before, the fat before only condensed a little, giving him a look of a short, plump ball. Nevertheless, he looked even less threatening than before. But Vegeta knew not to make light of the situation if Babidi was actually absorbed, remembering what had transpired earlier. Dabura seemed to finally reoriented himself from the pain he was feeling. Looking down from the air, he saw the small Bu and remembered everything that had happened before, of how Babidi controlled his will and how they released that monster. Babidi might not be here, but Bu being what his ultimate goal sufficed for Dabura to get revenge. Babidi, you crazy magician. I will settle for exacting revenge on your beloved weapon. Eyes were as red as they were crazy, going in with full momentum, giving no chance for any second thoughts, as if he had any. He didn't get far before his head was racked with pain once again. The same pain before occurred, except this time, Bu had his hand stretched out, seemingly inflicting the pain himself. After Bu seemed satisfied with his torture, his pink katana once again pointed its direction at its victim. Dabura, who was able to see his fate, howled in agony and despair for the last time before turning into a lollipop. Bu merely flicked his fingers and the lollipop entered his mouth. He crunched the candy brutally and threw away the stick as if it was a piece of trash. Feeling his body change once more, steam erupted from his holes encasing him. Vegeta this entire time was flying in the air, still as a rock. Fear crept up to him like a tidal wave. He came over here in seek of more power, only to witness what he could only consider a torturous event. He may have not seen how Babidi was absorbed, but seeing how easily Dabura was absorbed, someone who was barely inferior to him, so easily shook his heart. Seeing the smoke fade away, he prepared to leave. Out in the smoke, Bu's body had transformed into a slimer and more muscular version of himself. It looked like it took the appearance of Dabura's fit body, but Bu's cape and kilt remained, asserting Babidi's dominance in the power chain. After seeing that, Vegeta didn't stick around for much longer and rocketed away. As much as it hurt his pride, he knew that his ki had something to do with that monster. With only the ki leaking out, he felt the tremendous power he had. Fighting someone like that who had more in reserve was asking for a death wish. Bu was about to give chase and taste something even more delicious than his other two snacks, but he then sensed something in the distance. Dabura and Babidi didn't really have or cared to use sensory-type magic or techniques, but with both of their powers combined, he felt there was someone out there in the distance that was leagues stronger than him. Formulating a plan in his head, he concealed his ki and launched himself into space. Two great evil minds in his head tipped the balance of morality in the negative direction, and combining the intellect of each being, Bu was able to increase his own by a large margin. Even if each mind didn't do well on its own, Vegeta looked behind him and was secretly relieved that Bu did not give chase. He didn't know where he went, but that didn't concern him too much. All he had in his mind was how to defeat such a monster. To do that, he had a hard time swallowing that he couldn't do it himself, and had to enlist someone he demised. Hopefully he was back already. Lastly, this is the training area. I'm not sure if you need physical training more than others, but you can come here anytime you want. After waiting a few more minutes since they arrived on Earth, Broly woke up from his nap very confused. Chilai helped explain to him where he was, and who the people around him were, making him relax a bit more. With his time with Chilai all those months, his vocabulary improved a lot more than Goku expected. In no time, he was adjusted to the planet and Goku was giving him a tour. Naturally, he and Chilai didn't stray too far from each other. Kale, seeing another legendary Super Saiyan quickly, became friends with Broly. Chilai immediately became defensive, but after learning Kale was with me, she turned out much nicer and understanding of their situation. How is this even possible, for there to be two legendary Super Saiyans? In the book, it says nothing about it. Like I said, Kale, the book isn't an end-all be-all. Maybe there was always meant to be a female and a male legendary Super Saiyan. Of course, Goku didn't really think this was the case. The reason Kale was here was undoubtedly having to do something with him. But even he is unable to see the consequences of his arrival, with all his strength. Broly nodded quietly. For as strong and beefy the guy was, he was quite shy when meeting new people. Or maybe in general. Everyone enjoyed some drinks and food welcoming their new companions. They didn't know where they were going to live for the time being. But such peace and tranquility was a rarity for them, so all they wanted to do was enjoy it. Goku and Broly were talking it out about the control of his powers, and Goku wanted him to set down the same path that Kale was currently on. With the two of them, they could help each other out and point out each other's flaws. Basically, perfect training partners. That was when there was a knock on the door, a one that eluded heaviness and importance. Goku told Broly to wait for him as he answered, but before he could even stand up, the person on the other side lost his patience and busted the door open. Goku quickly stood up and went to see who would do such a thing and found himself face to face with Vegeta. He didn't look too roughed up, but one could tell he had been in a fight. The look on his face was far from the usual menacing look and instead was one of prideful reluctance. If that was a thing, Vegeta, just because we are rich doesn't mean you can bust open the entire door. What is it? Shut it, Kakarot, sit down and listen. Vegeta looked around the living room, spotting a few new additions in the house, but ignored them to explain Goku the situation. From beginning to end, Goku had his eyes furrowed the moment Vegeta mentioned Dabura. After he ended the story, Vegeta sprouted out how absorbed Bu ventured out into space. Vegeta, you are smarter than that. Why did you allow them to use your ki? What did you need from them? He could tell that Vegeta didn't tell them everything. It was too obvious. That doesn't matter right now. Tell me, what do you know about this creature? That creature? That creature was Bu, a universal threat. Vegeta's eyes were wide with horror. Back when he was still a prince, he heard about the history of Bu, the planet destroyer. Seeing that he could absorb people for power, as well as elevated his threat level exponentially. Take me to where you last saw him. Vegeta gritted his teeth and complied, knowing that he *CK up this time. The pride that he once had, that he went on and on about for days, was a shell of what it used to be. Bu shouldn't have been released for a few years, but the butterfly effect right now is biting me in the *S. I don't know what the guy is up to, but I can conclude that his intelligence makes him so much more dangerous than any other iteration of himself. Who knows what he could be planning? Goku scoured the insides of the laboratory, looking for anything that could help him. Even with the absorption of the extra two villains, he was confident that his current strength is leagues ahead. All he needed to do was find him. Easier said than done. Although Goku has been working on a technique for him to survive in space, he hasn't figured out the kinks yet. A couple of days have gone by from the time Vegeta broke the news, and it has been uneventful so far. Bulma has been working on building a tracker for Bu from the energy readings of his confined ball, but since his absorptions of two other living beings, it has changed and been harder to pin down. Vegeta got acquainted with the latest scion in the team. All Goku could do right now is to better himself, while also waiting for Kaioshin to call him. Right after the inspection of the base of Babidi, Goku transferred the awful news to the Supreme Kai. His reaction wasn't pleasant, to say the least, and surprisingly cursed at Goku and Vegeta for doing something so reckless. After the rant, he scrambled to try and find the chaotic blob before it got out of hand. Goku, come quickly, a voice resounding in Goku's mindscape, surprising during his private time with his girls. This better be worth it. I was just in good part. No time for your shenanigans, come now. With that, he turned off the mind link connecting them. Disgruntled at what could be so important, Goku found Shin's ki and teleported to him. Shin looked like he hasn't eaten in weeks, and his face looking like it had aged several decades. What's the matter, Shin? Surely Bu hasn't come here by still seeing you alive and all. Then you will be sorely mistaken, follow me. Shin led Goku to a special part of the sanctuary, where he lived until they came upon a box. The box was like any other normal box, and Goku didn't recognize it at first until Shin opened it. Inside it was revealed 4 green rings on the top in a row. On the bottom row, there was nothing. No silver time ring of the sort. This is the time ring, and as Shin was explaining what the time ring was and what it did, Goku's head was in a jumble. There is no way. I don't know how, but we weren't able to detect Bu at all. And when I did my routine check, it was just gone. And how do you know it's Bu? Shin raised his hand that contained a note. It was in the box. The note was just Good Bu's face with his tongue sticking out in a mocking fashion. Absorbing Babidi's memories, which had memories of Bididi, probably knew of the time ring and its uses. But if Bu was here, why would he not absorb Kibito and Shin then? Surely Babidi's intellect would want him too. Of course, the clue was in the note. Since in this timeline, Good Bu is still contained inside, even with 2 evil minds, he has some shred of morality. If he absorbed Kibito and Shin, it will tip the morality scale to 2v3 on the good side. Eep! Kibito, who was behind Supreme Kai, exclaimed in surprise. Both Goku and Kaioshin turned to look at what the fuss was about. Their eyes followed Kibito's towards the box to see a fuzzy outline of a fifth green time ring. No, 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 no. Shin was muttering to himself when the fifth time ring materialized itself next to the other four.